Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 11th day of December 2019. Well, we're finally at our 11th day, so a day of illumination. What will we find out today? I'm doing this early this morning. It's in the 8 o'clock hour, so are the astrological stuff is pretty much the same from yesterday, but I wanted to emphasize a couple of things. But we're doing this early today because my husband's got a doctor's appointment this morning, so tried to get ready for that, and I thought I would just do this now instead of afterwards because then it would just pretty much be too late. So anyhow, I guess let's see. Oh, correspondences are up. I did those last night. So they're up on the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Normally, I just go over some astrological stuff before we get started and talk about this or that if I want to. But usually I just try to keep it now on the, it's too easy to get off track with everything that's going on in the world. So we're talking about astrological things to start us out. So anyway, and then from there we try to maybe, sometimes they'll impact the reading and there'll be something that's mentioned there that really, applies and stuff. So I kind of like to incorporate that into the reading now, and it because it just seems to make sense. But anyway, so we'll start with that. The sun's in the 12th house of Sagittarius still, self-reflection. But there is a sesquisquare, hard one to say. It's like a square, a little bit modified. With Uranus, between Uranus and Sun, warning against beginning any, I thought this was hilarious, warning against beginning at any revolutions. My husband's a Sagittarius, and in his own estimation, he likes to kick the beehive. His words. Not anymore, because we're beekeepers now, so he knows better than to kick the beehive. Although he was telling me he was watching a video, one guy, that's how he knows. He'll just smack it. He'll know after the winter if he's got a hive that's alive or not. So, because if you hit the hive, they'll come out. They'll come like, "What are you doing?" So no, that Sagittarians are like that. So they kind of have to keep it in check today. And if you feel so compelled, you might want to do the same. Just caution a little bit. Make sure that the revolution's needed. Make sure that, you have to go as far as you do, because sometimes Sagittarians go a little too far. They get into someone else's flow. I think I mentioned that yesterday. And pretty soon they're doing things that really aren't what they want to do, but they're doing it anyway. Moon's in Gemini in the 5th house. Ideas still come easily today, but it also opposes Mercury, so do think before speaking. It's probably going to align then with not beginning any revolutions with the Sun. Mercury's in the 11th house in Sagittarius, so again, you're going to want to expand your worldview. You're going to be really interested in doing that. Again, revolution, be careful with that. You want to do that with friends and groups today. Mercury is communication, and the 11th house is about, relationships. So you may want to share your battle plans with friends. I don't know. Oh, well, yeah, Venus is conjunct Saturn. Again, you might run into someone from your past. So again, keep that in perspective. Mars is still in Scorpio in the 10th house. Lots of intense focus, likely surrounding your career. So again, on the revolution side of it, be careful there. You don't want to start anything at work necessarily, unless it's necessary, I suppose. But the world seems to be supporting you today, no matter what you do, because Jupiter's in Capricorn in the 12th house. Let's see. I don't think there's any duplicated well, no, here there is. I see we have duplicated signs, or do we? We've got Scorpio on 2 of the house cusps. So where's the other one? I don't see the oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, we've got duplicated signs with Scorpio and Taurus. So there'll be more about that on the blog, I'm sure. Or no, I don't think I had any at the time. I did it for noon today, so there wasn't any. So they stopped doing that at that time. So Capricorn and what is that, Pisces, are intercepted. So yeah, we got a little bit of that nonsense going on today. Wonder if I have that down here further. Nope, I took that off, so we won't worry about that. But in any event, I guess that's it on that. We'll go ahead and get going on the cards. But I just wanted to double check there on the chart to make sure there wasn't something really nasty I was forgetting. But I don't think so. I think mostly today is just we're going to need to watch our tone, you know, and whatever happens today, keep it in perspective. Let things pass, you know, rather than rising to the bait. And it should be a fairly calm day, I would hope. So it is maybe, but on the other hand, you never know, given the 11 day that it is. I mean, we're talking a master number for illumination, so you just don't know. What are you going to find out? You know, what are you going to learn? How is it going to affect you? How are you going to then interact with what you know? So lots of things to think about on an 11 energy day. So let's go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards. 7, 12, 13. Yeah, I'm not any better at doing these cards at 8 in the morning than I am at noon or 10 or whenever I usually do it. So it's like, oh, drop the cards today. So we have the High Priestess, the card 2 of the Major Arcana to start us off. And I'm going to take 3 cards. Again, if you haven't been here before, I take 3 cards first, and if I need to add a 4th, I will. And if not, then we'll move on to a rune from the Elder Futhark, and then we'll finish out with a geomancy rune. Just sort of tie it all together. The geomancy stuff usually talks about the foundation of how we got to where we are today in terms of the reading. So we'll do our second card here. 12, 13. I take the 13th card each time for randomness sake only. In normal readings, I don't. Normal readings, I just, you know, take the cards and lay them down. Well, we have the Wheel of Fortune. I wonder if we're going to get a 3rd major card here. It would make sense given that it's the 11th day. So we could get all Soul Archetype cards this morning. No, but we got the 4 of Pentacles. So you can see that any way you want to, I suppose. We're going to go ahead and in our Yod fashion, we're going to have the 2 major cards as support for the 4. Normally, so what we have here, well, there went my screen right off the page. Well, I hope I hope I didn't blank out. I don't know what happened there. Things happen on this computer, and it's because I set my cards down on the laptop. So I don't know. That's probably why. You can look at the 4 of Pentacles in a couple different ways. You can think of this as miserliness. You see the king with his back to the kingdom. He's wholly contained within his own thought process there, all about his own fortune. He's stepping on it. He's holding it in his hands, you know, very tightly. And he's got one displayed on his head, on his crown. So he's displaying his wealth for all to see. So like I say, you can read this either about yourself or about what's going on in the rest of the country here, but that's where his concern is. He's concerned about himself and what he can do for himself. Now, 4 can also be about your foundation, and clearly this is his foundation, but, you know, he's taking stock, basically, of what he has, and unfortunately, he's showing it to everybody. Look at me, look at me. Kings are like that. It's usually the queen that expresses the benevolence that then the king feels compelled to respond to. It's like, oh, no, you actually have to care about the little people. Yeah. But you can see that his back is to the kingdom there. He's wholly unconcerned with anything other than himself. 4 can also be about respite, but in this case, I think it's really more about, you know, this is, look at me now. It's all about me. Usually the King of Pentacles, when you get to that particular card, he's probably a little more benevolent than the other ones, but, you know, not necessarily. Again, I think it's usually in response to something else where they're sort of put between a rock and a hard place before they're ever going to get off their throne and do something for people. So, you could be having a moment here where you're trying to figure out, what you have and what your security is and all of that. Um, it could also be, you could be taking stock about your material presence in the outer world, the external world, away from your home. Uh, Given that his back is toward the kingdom, it could be something like that. You could be concerned with putting your best foot forward. Last week we were talking about maybe a change on the job front, maybe an advancement at the current place you're at, or maybe you're considering something else. But you could simply be today trying to put your best foot forward when you're trying to secure your own future. It could have something to do that, and you're just simply contemplating that. Or it could simply be that you're having a real problem understanding how you relate to the rest of it. There's a definite demarcation line here that I always find interesting when I see it. You can see it right back here. See if I can get my finger to work right. Over here, you see this over here, and it's again over here. That demarcation line seems to indicate that there's a real separation between what you're doing and what's back there, okay? So it could simply be too, given the weirdness of the four. I mean, just look at the Four of Cups. There, you've got a pity party going on. However, the Four of Swords, you're letting your thoughts settle, and so there's a lot of different ways you can look at the four. But here, sometimes the foundation is too stuck within, and you can't really express yourself without. And that's typically how I read the four. A lot of it has to do with the cards surrounding it. But I think for today, we're going to leave it at that. So if we're going to look at the two foundational energies underlying all of this, that needs to inform all of this, I should say, we have the High Priestess and the Wheel of Fortune. So again, as with that demarcation line, that we looked at here in the four, there's some recurring themes in tarot that one is that demarcation line. You'll see that periodically. And I do think that it means a real separation between what you're doing in that moment and where you're focused at and what's behind you, that there's a separation there. Here you also see another type of demarcation, if you will, by the two pillars. It's also expressed in other ways. It could be two sides of a mountain and a river that goes between, or a path that goes between. Anything that's this kind of the same on either side represents that. It could be two trees. I mean, it could really be anything, an archway even. But you're looking at something here where these are the pillars of Solomon, basically going to Solomon's temple. Behind the High Priestess, you'll see, if you could see back there, there are pomegranates arranged in the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. You see the cross on the High Priestess's dress there, denoting not the religious cross, but the center point. In the center of it, sort of depicts the balance between the horizontal plane and the vertical plane of existence. So both types of polarity, spirit and form versus masculine and feminine polarity, all in balance. You see the triple aspects above her head. Tonight is tonight is maiden phase. Tomorrow is mother. Tonight is the full moon. That's right. Tonight is the full moon. So yesterday was maiden. In the center we have mother, and then on the other side we have crone. So tomorrow also is a 12-12 gateway on the crone phase of the moon. So we'll talk about that as well here. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. I will close with that, and then we'll talk more tomorrow about it. Portals and gateways are interesting. And so I think they deserve, just a little bit of a mention there. But anyway, she's sitting on her chair. She's holding the Torah, the book of knowledge, in her hand, in her right hand of power. You don't see her left hand, I don't think. I don't see that there. But you've got, again, triple aspects above. She's resting one foot on a crescent moon in the maiden phase. So you're talking about new beginnings with the High Priestess. You're also talking about the middle way, intuition, wisdom. With the Torah present, you're talking about wisdom, revelation, inner wisdom, change, alignment. alignment by her being in the center. 2 is also about decisions, but I think in the case of the High Priestess, you're really talking about alignment and source presence, and then how you're going to then manifest that in the Empress into form. Basically, you've got the alchemical business done by the magician, which then which then sends that energy to the High Priestess. So I think that this aligns well with the 11 card here today. You can look at the pillars as representing the 11. The 2 can also represent the 11 if you want to look at it that way, as instead of, Roman numeral 2, you could also look at this as an 11 card, because this is really a card about intuition and enlightenment and illumination, and it's about informing the form process, basically. So where are we going to get that from? Are we going to get that from ego? Are we going to get that from spirit? Again, the impact on how you express your wealth, whether or not you're going to be miserly, like this implies, whether you're going to have that simply be your sole focus, or are you going to have an eye toward spirit informing all of it, and suggesting that there's more to what we're doing here than simply acquiring wealth for yourself and for your own concerns, that there's more to think about, like you see here behind him. It's not just about him. So whatever choice you're making today concerning or if you're just gathering facts or whatever you're doing today, and you're thinking about your own way forward, understand that there could be others that are depending upon you for the choices that you make. So again, if you don't be starting any revolutions today, if you still have to put food on the table for a family, you know what I mean? So here you have a 10 energy here. So 1, new beginnings, the wheel is turning, talking about the cycles of life, about fortune and prosperity. You see the alchemical symbols for mercury, sulfur, and salt surrounding the wheel. But basically, we're talking about prosperity and cycles and success. The inner wisdom to know that without support, this could be fleeting. That if all you're focused on is yourself, you might be successful, but odds are it's not with an eye toward the rest of the group. The Sagittarian focus can sometimes be like that, where they get in their own flow, and it's not that they forget that they have other people in their life. They know that. It's just that it doesn't occur to them. And so if we're talking about, the Sagittarian influence today, the sun in the 12th house of Sagittarius, again, self-reflection. It seems like that the king could benefit from a little bit of that here. We aren't, you may be in a position in your life where you are in authority. So maybe you're the breadwinner or one of the breadwinners in the family. And it's fine to focus on work. It's fine to do all of that, but it can't be to the exclusion of everything else. You have to carve out time to remember you have a family. We've talked about that as well with this card in the past. But basically, the question that the king needs to answer, and any one of us needs to answer if we're having trouble reconciling, either issues of our own material security with the responsibilities we also have toward others. Maybe we're having trouble reconciling that. Maybe the person, there's only one person working and they have trouble coming home with their paycheck. I don't know. You've got to think about what is really at stake here. You may have a decision to make, and you have some inner reflection to do. The 12th house in Sagittarius, again, about self-reflection, and that could be contained with what's in the High Priestess card here. that if you're going to have security in terms of the wheel turning in your favor, because it can turn in any direction, right? Maybe as it turns, maybe it's not so much about prosperity. Maybe you could have a chance of losing all of it if you don't remember what's really at stake here. That it can't simply be about you, that it's really about the entire picture of your life. If you have responsibilities to other people like the king does, it can't simply be about him. So however this applies to your life, let's go ahead and look at a rune and see what it has to say. But I really think that this is about, self-evaluation, like with the sun in the 12th house in Sagittarius today. This is about self-evaluation, really, and letting the 11 energy of today do that for you. Illumine your way forward and pay attention to the messages that come up. If you sit in reflection and you're trying to reflect on what you have and what you can offer to the world, that's fine. But just remember that you have an effect, and you need to understand what that is. And if others are depending on you, then you cannot take a simply service to self-focus. It's just not going to work. Here you have Inguas or Ingus. And I'm hoping that this comes up a whole lot next year, because next year I think we have a 22 energy, which is the cosmic builder, another master number. Last year was an 11 energy, and then this year was a 3. So, awakening, basically, catalytic awareness and all of that, what we're going to do with what we learned last year. Well, we're coming upon a new year where we're going to say that about this year. What did we manifest? What did we catalyze? I should say, not manifest. And then what are we going to manifest from that this next year? So you can see there's an interesting 11, 3, 22 dichotomy and relationship between these 3 years. They're very important years in terms of awakening, illumination, catalyzation, and then next year, manifestation. So we have Angus, which is the 22nd rune of the Elder Futhark, representing the seed within, sudden expansion within. Again, getting ready to manifest something about what it is we've learned. So, again, the choice is yours, what it is you choose to manifest, how you're going to allow Ingus to resonate. But again, if you're not, if you're regrettably observing the demarcation line we see here between the kingdom and the material security of the king, it kind of looks like he's using them to achieve material security. So, for himself, not for the greater kingdom at large, you see. I mean, the most obvious example to pull from is what's going on in our country at the moment. I don't know how. Well, let me draw Ingus here, because there's 2 ways to do this before I get into that. But basically, that's I think I suspect that this is more. I mean, this can be read from both angles. But here we really have to, with the presence of the 2 major cards, we really have to be mindful of where we place our focus. Is it in a self-oriented focus, or are we aware that we impact others and that we have a responsibility to others? Now, I'm going to draw Ingus 2 different ways, because it depends on your persuasion as to how you do it. But it's really the same thing either way you look at it. They can be like a DNA strand, or it can be like the diamond, which is still reflective of genetic inheritance and the seed within, sudden expansion of energy. But you can see how it could have to do with our birth, with the genetics of the birth, and who we're going to become. But basically, what you're looking at is a series of Kenaz in all directions, which is the light, the torch, or the light of spirit turned in all directions to create that. So you can understand, if you think about that, and of course that's if you do it in the X fashion, but basically, otherwise you're looking at it this way. But you can see in terms of directionality of the light of spirit, how in order for this for ingus to exist, it's got to go in all directions. Okay, when it's the sudden expansion of energy, well, what kind of energy are we talking about? Are we talking about energy of the ego, or are we talking about, you know, energy of spirit? And when you're about to birth something into creation, that's spirit, is it not? That's doing all of that. It's not ego, you know, manifesting itself into form. It's spirit manifesting into form. An itty bitty part of spirit. So the rest of it's still there, driving the ship, or at least trying to, while the ego's ignoring all of the, ignoring the roadmap. So the roadmap today, then, you know, you could say here the ego's roadmap is contained within the High Priestess card and the Wheel of Fortune. You know, are we going to allow spirit to inform this process with the High Priestess so that we can then get a better turning of that wheel, you know, one that's in reciprocity and unity with others? Or is it all going to be about that king? And today I have my magnifying glass, so I can actually see without guessing. Oh, well, yeah. So we have a little unstable energy today with Pur. Pur is essentially the young boy. So a little, what is it, Mars and Scorpio or something like that. I think he's Mars and Scorpio. I'll have to look. Or no, that's Rubius. But I think Scorpio's involved possibly with Pur. Pur is, you've got Pur and you have Puella. And so essentially within the geomancy runes, you have essentially 8 runes, but there's 16 because you're dealing with their complement. And so Pur and Puella both denote youthful individuals, youthful kids, basically. This is Pur. This would be Puella. Puella would be, I'm sort of the embodiment of Puella according to my mother growing up. I was flighty. And so, well, I'm a Libra, and you know, I have a lot of weird energy, and so empathic, and I'm a witch and all that. So anyway, I was not normal growing up, and my mother used to call me flighty, and she was right. I was, because I was very, you know, very affected by all the energies around me, and very, you know, looking around what's going on, you know, and so it was hard for me, and I just had a lot of excess energy to deal with, which most of it wasn't even mine. So, you know, I was trying to learn how to do all of that all by myself, and it was impossible. So, but here you have Pur, which is a little bit of youthful, unstable boy type energy. You know, I raise sons, so I know exactly what that is. You know, they're just everywhere. And so I think that again, you could also interpret that as lost focus, maybe, or a lack of focus, you know, lack of impulse control, if you will. And I think that if that's at the heart of this, you know, then it's definitely going to affect his ability to, the king's ability to even see what's behind him. You know, he's going to be so focused on making money that and he's going to do it however he wants to, right? It doesn't matter how he does it. It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal, if it takes advantage, if it uplifts. It does not matter to him how it happens as long as he gets his money, right? So if that's what you're contending with, I don't know. You know, the guy in the Oval Office is getting impeached for it. So I don't know. I don't think it's really the way forward. Maybe that's your level of illumination today, is to understand that you're not the only person in the world. You're not the only person that matters. There are other people that depend on you. And even if you don't realize it, even if they just depend on you to be a nice person to them, you know, even if they don't depend on you for financial support, you know, but say this even has to do with a job, you know, with Scorpio in the 10th house, you've got issues of focused communication and all of this at work, and you just never know where that's going to go, and Scorpio's influencing that way. You know, Scorpio's a very intense sign, very focused, but they can also be very suspicious. So, you know, you want to be able to depend, the people need to be able to depend on you in some way, whether it's materially or otherwise. You know, if it's at a job, you know, this person might feel so blown away by you, they have to leave their job. You know, they got to go look for something else because it's just too intense around you. So again, be mindful of your effect. With all the Sagittarian influence, especially, also with the Scorpio influence, you've got to be mindful of your effect on others. There just seems to be a single-minded focus with those folks that doesn't necessarily remember other people are watching. They really don't. And so in any event, again, watch the impulse control. I think Pur is probably also talking about the Gemini influence on the moon, and the moon's opposition with Mercury. Again, think before speaking. But just think about your effect in the world. Think about the impact you have. Think about the impact that you have upon your own material security. Is it coming from the place of spirit, or is it coming from the place of ego? Do you consider anyone else in the process when you need to be doing so? And as the wheel of fortune turns, will it turn in your favor, or is it going to will there be a reckoning for how you've conducted yourself over time? So I guess that's it for today. I got to go get ready because we got to go do that doctor's appointment. So I'm going to watch this and make sure it's okay before I put it up. Again, check out my links below. And everything, everywhere you can reach me is down below the video. And I guess that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming by. And tomorrow, again, we'll talk about the 12-12 gateway. Again, it's a 3-3 energy. So Christ consciousness, I don't know. I think we've got a really special time this month energetically. I think that lots of enlightenment and illumination are coming our way, but we've got to figure out what we're going to do about it. So in any event, we will see you tomorrow, and hope there won't be any more appointments so I can maybe do this at a more humane time. Anyway, I guess that's it then. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.